HMS Warrior sheet anchor. Impressive. And there she is in all her glory. So HMS Warrior, of course, famous for being the first all-iron warship built. She was built in response to France's Gloire, which was a wooden hull but had iron sheathing. So the British thought, let's take that one step further. Let's build an all-iron ship. And this is what we're looking at right now, HMS Warrior.
Let's just go on board. That means we're really going on a ship.
Okay, so we're going to put the stroller in here a minute because we're not going to take the stroller on board. Well, we can't. So, you ready, AJ? You going to park up? Yeah.
Mommy, you're on the water. You're going to go on my ship.
You're going on your ship?
That ship.
You Captain Matilda?
Yeah. Oh, holy mateys.
That's an impressive view. Most impressive. So we're walking down the starboard side, heading aft. So unfortunately we can't get right to the back of the ship because there is some essential works going on, which is a bit of a shame. Never mind. Hey. Wow. We thought we'd start at the bow and work our way back. Look at that. That's the end of the bowsprit. Huge piece of wood there huge chunk of wood just to shore that up. Impressive. Warrior, by the way, was, I believe, completed in 1860. So she's not Nelsonic period. So she is Victorian. Lunch, anyone? This is where the men would eat and drink, sleep. All right there on the gun deck. Don't trip. Wow. So onto the gun deck proper. It's a large cannon. And that's what it shoots.
Can you just hold this while I tie knots?
Like I said, you literally ate in between the cannons. How awesome is that?
What are you cooking?
Hey, the galley. Skylight there. Someone's left their hat behind. Very tempting.
There's lots of things in it.
There is.
You're not allowed. Yeah, they're so
right down into the, I assume, all the engines, boilers, whatnot. We'll go down there in a minute. Weaponry. Warrior written in on there. Bombs away. Looks very plush down there. Oh, this is very comfortable and nice. I think I would much rather be an officer than one of the crew, that's for sure. Opposite end of that room. Nice. Pretty neat. Pretty comfortable. Oh, what's for tea?
No.
Delicious. I'll be back there for some tea. Another cabin with a geek gun in it. That's what you call home security. Right, so we've worked our way toward the bow again, just to be more logical with the video. Ooh, a sail store perhaps?
Sitting there looks sad. Sit on the bed.
You're in jail. You're in the brig. Poor Tata. Poor Tilly. You going in, AJ? No? Alright, don't blame you.
The prisoner has escaped.
I would not want to be in here in a rolling sea.
So when you sail,
Yeah, I said a sail room. Probably a sewing room is more accurate. Do some cutlass drill. Your laundry room.
no back.
3 bathtubs. Not much privacy. Perhaps he was a Cornishman. So all the sailors' belongings, I assume, like lockers, I guess. There's more on the other side. Should quite a big crew, I think.
104.
Oh yeah, lots. Rum. Grog, more to the point. Well, rum. Watered down rum.
Supplies of fresh food and fresh drink on board the ship as well. And you're allowed to bring
Very nice. Wow. Can you imagine how noisy this will be? Must be pretty close to the waterline. I assume we must be under the waterline, I don't know. We'll be under the waterline in a minute because we are going deeper still.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your 10-minute call for the 11 o'clock gun drill demonstration at gun number 11 on the starboard side of the gun deck. Your 10-minute call.
This would be the place not to be working. There's your coal that will power your boilers here. That's some big bellows.
Ladies and gentlemen, please mind your ears for the 11 o'clock bell. By introducing myself, my name is current absence. Specifically, I need to welcome you here to the gun deck. You see, within here, it is so large, we can fit the whole of the dusty relic Victory inside with a few feet to spare. You have the privilege of standing, sitting, squatting, crying on board the most heavily armed, the most heavily armoured, the fastest and the longest warship in the world by 120 foot. This morning I will be talking you through the gun drill demonstration of this, a 68-pound smoothbore muzzle loading Wentworth gun, meaning what we place in weighs 68 pounds. On the inside she is smooth, there is no rifling, she is loaded from the muzzle to the hole at the other end. Now, a little bit more context, I'm afraid I'm going to have to mention the French. I said the French, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. Now, their largest gun is a 32-pounder, meaning what they place inside weighs 32 pounds. But as I've said, this is a 68-pounder. She has the same range as a French gun, which is 1¼ miles. But we do 6 times the amount of damage with one of ours as they can do with one of theirs. But it does not stop there, because this gun deck is also home to the largest gun on board a ship anywhere in the world. And you'll find 8 of them on this deck level. 110-pound Armstrong breech loading 7-inch rifle barrel gun with a maximum range of 2¼ miles. Meaning we can hit the frogs a mile before they can hit us. And if they do get within 200 yards by some web toe miracle, their shot will bounce clean off of that armour. Make a 4½ inches of raw tire, 10 inches of teak, an additional 9 inches of teak behind that, mounted onto an iron hull, because we are the first fully iron warship in the world. But back to gunnery. This young lady here, I'll be talking you through, and of course the first thing we shall assume is that she has just been fired, meaning she has recoiled to this mark here. She is extremely hot, and on the inside extremely filthy, so we have to set to work rather quickly. The first thing we use is the worm. Here on the left, there on the right. Now children, you may recognise this as a coping mechanism from your parents for when you come home, because it looks like a corkscrew. And it does a similar job. You put it down the muzzle of the gun, twisting as you go, and it grabs hold of any bits of debris. Now that is pieces of linen or rope, line that are left over from the previous firing. Out she comes with all of that gunk, and now it is time to cool the gun. For the outside, we take one of these, a swish. It's just a piece of line that has been pulled apart. Dunk it in a bucket of water, and you paste the outside with it. If you throw a bucket of water on this gun, she's cast iron. She will just crack. And then you have Her Majesty to contend with, and she is famously not amused. Now for the inside, however, we need to turn our eyes upwards once more for the sponge. Centre, centre, and then dangling here. The sponge, who can guess what it's made of? Sponge? Wrong! We would not name something so logically on board a ship. It is in fact made of sheepskin. Again, you dunk that in water, put it in the end, and ram it home, so it's coming all the way down to cool. The gun captain, that man in charge of the gun, holds his hand over the touch hole, which goes down into the gun. If he feels a breeze coming up, he knows that the gun isn't blocked, and that you may then carry on with the reloading process. He takes a square of wet leather over the top, pushes down on it, and then as the sponge comes out, it creates a little bit of a vacuum. So any embers left inside have either been drowned or suffocated. The next thing we need to do is start loading the gun. And so, with the crew of 18 and a half men, now the half man is not somebody who is bullied by gravity. It is one man shared between two. And he will run to the nearest gunpowder port. We have 4 to the stern, and we have 4 to the bow. They're large white plugs, and you'll see them as you carry on inspecting the ship after this. He grasps the leather bag from the chute, as inside is this, the gunpowder charge. This is the largest gunpowder charge this gun can take. She's a distance charge. And when this ignites, the explosion is so loud, we tell the men to keep their mouths open. Otherwise, some clench so hard, they shatter their teeth. So that is then put into the muzzle and rammed home to this position here, using the ramrod. There on your right, there on your left. It looks like a plunger, but you're actually doing the opposite. Now my favourite bit, we get to choose what we're going to be firing at the frogs. You could use the 68-pound round shot, that's solid iron. Or perhaps we want to try and take down their masts and rigging. So for that we need something that explodes. We have the common shell that we can fire at them, or grape shot. Once we fire this, the brittle layers holding them in place snap. It then spreads out, and perhaps 5 or 6 of these going into a mainmast will take it down. It is rather important, of course, to aim at the masts, because remembering, if the French cannot run away, they truly are good for nothing. If we get into close combat and we need anti-personnel, we will use this canister shot. In here is around 300 to 500 musket balls, and a broadside of this will change their upper deck into porridge. However, for the demonstration purposes, we will use the 68-pound round shot. 2 men it takes to lift this up to shoulder height into the muzzle of the gun, rammed home with the ramrod. You may feel that you're perfectly still today, but your inner ear is lying to you. This ship is afloat. We travel over 20 foot on the tide every day. Now, we are 418 foot in length and only 58 wide, meaning we list considerably. That is the rocking from side to side. On the upper deck, the yardarm extensions can touch the water on either side in very rough seas. And so, as you are loading the gun, so you don't hear a rumble, 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 plop, we use one of these. This is a grommet. Rather simple, it's just a piece of spliced line with then a cross in the middle, and we will lose this every time we fire it. So the men make them in their spare time. They can probably do it with their eyes closed. In it goes, rammed home to around here, and it keeps everything wedged together nicely. Now it's time to maneuver the gun or run it out. She is 5 tons. The undercarriage an extra ton on top of that. For you youngsters, that is 3 elephants right there that you're going to have to maneuver on 2 wheels. So the 18 men grab hold of the tackles on either side, and on the rather famous nautical command 2-6 heave, they give it their all. So to get you in the spirit of things, I will shout 2-6, you will shout back heave. 2-6 heave! Well, wasn't that pathetic? It's 6 tons, ladies and gentlemen. Put your back into it. 2-6 heave! 2-6 heave! 2-6 heave! 2-6 heave! Now the gun has been run out. The muzzle is on the outside of the ship. It turns once again to the gun captain to begin aiming the gun. First of all, by setting his rangefinder. He listens to me as gunnery lieutenant, who will tell him the range. He turns his rangefinder depending on what he's firing. D for distance charge, R for reduced charge, and then the Omega if we want to line them all up. And today we will be using the Omega, so in it goes like so. He looks down and lines it up with the mid-sight and then the sight right at the end as well. It's not quite in the right position. He needs to move the elevation of the gun. So the hand spikes go in. It's these things up here. They look like overgrown chopsticks. In they go. The men pull down to raise the rear of the gun, which will then lower the elevation, or they'll bring it down to raise the elevation. To keep it in place, they use a coin. Now you're quite right, it doesn't look like a coin. It's not even spelt like the word coin. Unfortunately, it comes from the French term meaning wedge. But in she goes, the gun comes down, and she's now at the correct elevation. A new part of gunnery. We need to point the gun. Each gun has the ability to come round at either 15 or 30 degrees on either side. No easy job again, she's 6 tons. But it is far easier to manoeuvre a broadside of 6-ton guns than it is a 418-foot ship that's displacing over 9,000 tons of water. We can also align her to 2 pieces in the centre. The straight line shows that she is perpendicular, straight on to your gun port. That 0 line, or Omega, allows us to line up every single gun on a broadside, midship, 800 yards off, as we are the first ship in the world that can fire a full, simultaneous broadside without doing what we call a Mary Rose. And that is thanks to this piece of equipment here, a water ballast system. We flood the compartment on the broadside in which we need, and that then muffles the recoil. If we aren't going to fire a full broadside on something called sectional firing, so only a few guns at once, and we need a little bit of extra range, just flood the other side. It brings the guns up and you get an extra degree or 2 out of her. Now that she has been aimed, it is time to prime the gun. The gun captain takes his priming iron, just a large needle. That then goes down the touch hole into the linen bag, breaking a hole in it. Then to create the explosive link between the inside and the outside, we take a goose's quill. That is just a goose's feather with a fluffy bit removed and the middle filled with a very fine gunpowder. The finer the gunpowder, the larger the surface area, and the larger the surface area, the faster the ignition. And so on top of that, we place a percussion cap. Now on board older ships, such as the Victory, they use friction and heat to ignite their guns. Both useless if they get damp. And as we are a ship, we are famously surrounded by something that is rather damp. Finally, we have moved on to a chemical ignition. Inside this is liquid mercury, and is so volatile, if one drops it from chest height, it will ignite as it hits the deck below. So carefully, it is then placed on. Once the gun captain is happy, he will then give the command, ready. The men split to either side, releasing the tackles and getting ready by putting a finger in the ear closest, keeping the mouth open. The gun captain looks at the midshipman, who's in charge of around 4 guns. The midshipman looks to me as gunnery lieutenant, and I stand midship at gun number 9. When I am happy, fingers in the ears, I give the command, fire. With that, the round shot comes out of the muzzle at over 1,000 feet per second, skimming off the water between 30 and 40 times before hitting the enemy vessel. Now, the French take down their flag. They remove the red and the blue section to fly their most famous flag, the white flag. But it's too late. We have sent a simultaneous broadside of over 1,300 pounds of gunnery force, and the side of their ship has more holes in it than the cheese on their table. A 6-ton gun has recoiled 6 foot at 30 miles an hour. I have started my watch, and in the Royal Navy, the men have 70 seconds to reload this gun. On board this ship, we do it in 55. Not only are we the fastest ship in the world nautically at 17 knots in a fifth, but by George, we are the fastest at gunnery as well. This ship is a deterrent. This broadside is devastation. And if they dare put a web toe out of line, they will feel the full might and power of Her Majesty and her empire that currently consumes almost a quarter of the world. And so to finish this demonstration, we will all come together with 3 mighty huzzas for Her Majesty Queen Victoria and her most Britannic Royal Navy. Ladies and gentlemen, hip hip! Hooray! Hip hip! Hooray! Hip hip! Hooray! As taxpayers, you have coughed up for the ship, so she is yours to inspect. Unless there are any questions, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Lieutenant Fisher. Carry on.
Thank you.